Hello, my name is Tyrita Milligan, and from my Benchmark Cultural Immersion project, I will be discussing the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer plus culture and community widely known as LGBTQ+. Here's a link to the video for further reference purposes and a copy of the PowerPoint. As we all consider America the melting pot of civilization and human diversity, there are some struggles we tend to face getting along together in this big diversified soup bowl of a country. There are far too many racisms and sexisms, genderisms, and many other isms that each of us face that has us more divided than we should be. Among those are the lesbian, gay, transgender, and queer plus cultures and communities, also known as LGBTQ+, that has been through turmoil for years, just fighting for the rights to love and be loved in the non-traditional way. According to Khan 2021, the first person to express openly to the world that they were gay and an activist was Carl Henrik Ulrich. And let it be known that he likes the opposite sex, which is called coming out in the LGBTQ plus language. It is since Carl Henrik Ulrich's experience that some changes have made history. This is also when the rainbow was adopted by Gilbert Baker in 1978 to signify unity of their different colors of love when it was first flown in their initial Gay Freedom Day parade in San Francisco. To date, this parade happens annually. According to Brown 2023, the most common attitudes, values, and beliefs of the LGBTQ plus culture are rooted deeply in their freedoms of expressions and love. Living with what they call pride in our country matters so much to this culture because they have been diminished for far too long for being different and loving outside the box. They were told who and how to love, what to wear, and the proper ways to carry themselves. And whatever their sex was they were born with was the way they should present themselves to the world. And anything other than that is shameful and undeserving of God. White et al. 2022, April. However, within the group, there are a plethora of different ways they identify, which can be confusing to even their own cultures, because some individuals do not identify at all and are considered non-binary. Hayes and Erfurt, 2022. The LGBTQ plus culture is extremely focused on feeling free in their romantic explorations and sexual liberations and living by their own rules. According to Mars 2023, March 16th, LGBTQ plus individuals seek living amongst communities that share the same background and experiences in communities, business, and religious establishments that are made up of their own kind. Even their police are LGBTQ plus just to keep civilization and homes safe from terrors of threats or discrimination. McGoldrick et al. 2005. Traditional culture has always taught us that a man and a woman is only acceptable in the world, and if you were born a man or a woman, you should behave in such a way. Then comes along the freedoms to be. When suppressing these feelings and desires or pretending to be someone we just are not, it can have a toll on the mind, body, and soul. Hayes and Erfurt, 2022. Westray and McLean, 2024, informed us that during the 1980s and 90s, AIDS were a big issue due to many of the younger LGBTQ plus individuals becoming homeless and families abandoning them or alerting them that they were LGBTQ, which were against familial religious beliefs. They had to fend for themselves the best way they could, which involved sexual favors. For transgenders, the only thing available back then was to be dragged, which was against God if men were to behave like women and women like men. And even though there are surgeries that can make the transition today, the struggle is that they are still binarily considered female at birth or male at birth, and on their birth certificates and identification cards. White et al. 2022. Hayes and Erfurt, 2022, discussed how sexism has mental, physical, and social health consequences such as distress from adolescent bullying, eating disorders, substance abuse, isolation, and a disconnect from asking for resources or reaching out to anyone because of trust issues. I had an external experience with one of my coworkers who were transgender. Although they did not necessarily have the surgery, they were a male who dressed and identified as a woman who had just started for the new year and taught a long-term substitute position at an elementary school. Teachers didn't have a problem with it, and the staff loved her, including myself. She was great with the kids, and they seemed to behave better than their previous teacher. However, the parents were in an uproar, implying that she was confusing their children, and it was not natural to have a teacher that looked this way. Somehow, after a couple of months, a new teacher, traditional appearance, stood in front of the class while the other teacher took on a transferred assignment. It broke my heart that even the little things carried so much weight. If we could utilize in our approaches humility to everyone, we could instill a better understanding of one another and get along better, even if we agree to disagree. I think we could learn from their unselfish love by how they gathered to have fun and embrace one another with unconditional love and emotional support. This experience brings me to my next slide. I had the opportunity to share their world for a few hours and enjoy how they take care of one another. At Hamburger Mary's, downtown Toledo, Ohio, they not only celebrated their 5th year of freedom in business, but they raised money for their young LGBTQ plus for advocating efforts, food, clothing, toiletries, and assistance with sheltering. This was a drag show to remember. Different individuals in drag from all across the country will come out and make a statement of their oppression and why they do what they do, then put on the cover performance of their lives while accepting tips during their acts. Each would also speak about political and ethical issues around the region and the needed help and assistance from everyone to help fight for their rights to be protected. I had the pleasure of taking photos and talking to a few of them to understand what it was like for them and the different discriminations they have faced, even within their own families. I was truly blessed to know them that they were not alone in their struggles. And I understood their demands as a Black minority woman who has faced racism and discrimination. Another event I was embraced and had the privilege to join was through Equality Toledo Food Pantry. They partner with Hamburger Mary's in the area and are a spectacular team of individuals. The purpose of this event was to give out assistance to whomever needed it. Although they cater to the LGBTQ plus community, they turn no one away who needs help. They just wish to only receive the same when they seek help outside of themselves. On this specific day, I had the pleasure of meeting some wonderful people and an amazing group of adolescents and young adults during a food giveaway and a group meeting. The pantry was open for about 2 hours and the group was about an hour. Their ages were between 13 and 25. The Equality Toledo Pantry offers food, clothing, and toiletries, and some household items when available. This is also in the downtown area of Toledo, Ohio. I also got to enjoy some insight from other counselors that were there as a future Christian counselor and almost got offered a job. Although it would have been nice, I must say that I love doing what I am doing now, helping other youth that cannot help themselves who have autism. I hold much gratitude for the courage and resilience these youthful LGBTQ plus individuals uphold, sharing stories, tears, hope, and encouragement with one another, and knowing that someone is advocating on their behalf to live a better life and free life in love and self. It intrigued me on the closeness of this separated culture. I noticed how even though they talked about how much help they needed to live and love freely, they just did it anyway, no matter the consequences. No matter the obstacles they go through and how different they are individually, they stand on a mighty, foundationally united front. The LGBTQ plus community truly believes in looking out for one another, advocating for everyone, and making changes that would change not only their community and other people's views, but also legislation and one day the world. They also hold strong on their fight for their freedoms. Legislation never seems to be in their favor, and somehow they find ways to prove they need laws for protection, freedom, and civilization. The LGBTQ plus population shows exemplary resilience when it comes to advocacy efforts and engaging people into their causes. They have already adopted legislation for same-sex couple adoptions, marriages, and in some states and counties fostering children. They know how to raise their own money and get the word across to the right people that will listen and help them make the difference and a positive change for their population and communities for many years to come. The real challenge they face is new legislation and if what they already have will soon be taken away. Local advocacy efforts have been made through an organization called Equality Toledo I had the pleasure of visiting, not only once through their food pantry, but also through an interview with their program coordinator named Tammy McInerney. According to T. McInerney, Personal Communication, December 13, 2024, Equality Toledo's mission is to work to eliminate discrimination in their community and throughout the region based on sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression. They will incorporate educational assistance programs, activism to advocate on their behalf, and any other discriminative efforts that would defame who they represent. It all started because LGBTQ plus individuals throughout the community would seek assistance through traditional places and get rejected because either their looks didn't fit the criteria or their identification didn't match the sex they were dressed as, although the features in the DNA were intact. T. McInerney, Personal Communication, December 13, 2024, informed me that Equality Toledo provides support through a wide range of services and programs, seeking assistance through education, food, employment, shelter service information, and how to join advocacy efforts. Their greatest need and biggest challenges are mainly through legislation with obtaining and keeping the little rights they do have. There is massive panic with the new presidency arriving that promises that very thing. Funding as well as getting people outside the culture to join into the fight is also one of the biggest challenges. Fundraisers alone can help only so much. Some businesses donate, but not many, and others still shun them away, even if it is for children in need. They don't have spaces where they can go to hold massive meetings, but have met with other organizations such as Trans Toledo, Northwest Ohio LGBTQ Plus Coalition, Toledo Pride, the Toledo Black Queer Collective, and many other grassroots organizations willing to assist, but it's still not enough. McInerney, Personal Communication, December 13, 2024, stated that there is a Facebook page and an Instagram page where Equality Toledo informs everyone of events and fundraisers such as Flaunt, where they raise money for advocacy efforts through a fashion show and pamphlets with their organizational support services that some businesses are willing to hand out. They also have a 501c4 business along with their 501c3 nonprofit that allows them to raise funds for political parties that will assist in addressing their issues with the government officials. All in all, everyone knows that religious beliefs can be complicated within communities like this. McInerney expressed that although the availability to express spirituality is there, not many individuals in the population believe that they are included because of what they have been told or because of the circumstances they feel that God allowed them to go through because they were created differently. I also had the opportunity to be graced by the presence of a mother and a daughter of the LGBTQ plus culture, both lesbian, that are hopeful for legislation changes as well. The mother we will call Renee and the daughter Rachel are both living outside of their communities, living through the heartaches of what it is like to be discriminated against just because of who they are and how they love. Renee, who is a single mother lesbian, had what she calls a colorful childhood, bright and merry. Although Renee is a lesbian and identifies as she dresses in male clothing and wears her hair as such. Her experiences led her to embrace the culture more and become more vibrant in who she is. She stated that she was born with a glow that no human could ever turn off. God gave her that light just as she was, and it just so happened to fit perfectly with a rainbow. She knew she was gay at the tender age of 11. However, her daughter Rachel did not have the bright mindset and experiences as her mother did in her lesbianism. Rachel, Personal Communication, December 11, 2024, informed me that at the age of 8, she liked her best friend and knew she was different. It has been difficult since then through her adolescence because of her peers at school. They will call her names like emo, lesbian, explicatives, and was once told to kill herself because she was gay and that God doesn't love her for it. Both Renee and Rachel love interacting with other groups and organizations that are part of the LGBTQ plus culture because it gives them an outlet and updates them on what is going on in legislation and how to act on their own behalf. Both Renee and Rachel, Personal Communication, December 11, 2024, are in hopes of a major change for transgender children with better protections both for being who they are and for their rights to become their new selves. Equality Toledo has helped Rachel with joining in to help herself and others, as well as receiving help through counseling and even having to admit herself into a facility because of the overt discriminations, even at the age of 15, she has faced. They both want same sex marriages to stay legal and become legal everywhere so they can live normal too. Throughout this project, I have moments where I cried, I laughed, encouraged, and improved my relationship with God. The LGBTQ plus community is hurting, and it is only because they want to be different. They are not asking for a material thing or to bring an uprising to the world if they don't get what they want. They are only asking for what others already can do, and that is to love who they love unconditionally but untraditionally. I used to think that as a black woman who could not change the color of her skin had it bad because I had no choice, and the LGBTQ plus culture were asking for legislation because of their own personal choices, wants and needs behind closed doors. However, I have a very different perspective learning what I have learned. They want what we all want, and that is fairness, transparency, and love, and the laws that say they can do it. It made me realize that their fight is my fight because we want the same freedoms of fairness and equality. The research, this research allowed me to paint the entire picture of the LGBTQ plus culture as a whole with statistics and information about their oppressions. However, the interviews taught me that even though they are going through these hard times, they are still hopeful for a better tomorrow and will never give up on themselves and each other. Anderson, 2023, taught that showing gracism to others gives us ability to show God's unconditional love towards them from the inside, and how the information about an individual we gather should only be to understand them and not judge them, but to see them as a flawed, fleshly, spirited person that is just trying to live life peacefully. Gracism is not just being in these people, believing in these people, but walking beside them in their shoes and even for them when they cannot move for themselves. Of the seven sayings, Anderson 2023, LGBTQ plus culture really needs someone to stand with them and honor them. I chose them because I admire their fight for their freedoms. They stand strong for one another, and I believe that we should stand with them because their rights are truly being violated. All they want is to enjoy the simplest things in life, such as loving someone who loves them back, regardless of sexual orientation and identification of either of their partner or their own. They are not asking for people to minimize themselves, but not to be minimized. For me, to be a gracist, I must honor them standing firm and tall for their cause because God put us here to spread his unconditional love for each other. We have all been created equally in the eyes of the Lord, and he knows us before we even know ourselves. So why should we judge what God has created? I surely do not want to be judged for any reason, so I would not do that to anyone else. So in conclusion, history was in the making when a man named Carl Henrik Owen sought to seek justice for the rights of others and himself at the event in New York City that has changed and shaped the LGBTQ plus culture community today on an international level. Research on the impact of racism is detrimental to all involved and it leaves a sense of exclusion to this population. However, they are strong and extremely resilient in their quest to equal rights. Protests, parades, and advocacy efforts and interviews with organizations and individuals of the LGBTQ plus culture inspired me to assist in the charge on helping protect their rights to love and be loved, however they freely feel. Their biggest impact is on same-sex marriages and assistance for the LGBTQ plus youth so that they will not have to struggle as hard growing up, even though the traditional norms are making it hard, even though the traditional norms are making it hard enough for them. No matter how we are and how we love, God shows his grace and mercy to us all. We are no one to judge anyone else. Through humility and counseling, we take away the judgment and truly hear their stories behind the madness and embrace their values and beliefs in order to assist them through transparent counselor-client relationships move forward to security, hope, and well-being. The rainbow is the perfect solution of solitude and a reminder that all shades and differences can blend and masterpiece a peaceful, beautiful picture in harmony. Thank you.